I want to focus on Archie Miller and I want to focus on Mike Hopkins because they are at their new schools and they were highly regarded hires, I think is probably the fair way to say it. Yeah.
I praise both. I remember I was in South Carolina when Hop got the job and was shocked. It came out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Jen Cohen, the AD there, hired Hop, and I was like, great hire. And then when Indiana hired Arch, I thought the same thing. I thought he was the right guy for the job, and now I'm questioning both, and I'm probably questioning Hop a little more. I still think Arch has a shot there right now to turn it. I'm not so sure Hop has a shot. I just look at the roster, and I'm like, this roster isn't very good. It's almost like a start over type deal next year. If he, hopefully he gets next year. I would think he will. I just don't expect too many ADs to make moves on coaches during this pandemic with finances being an issue, especially, again, if you owe them a lot of money, which I think both these guys are still owed some decent money at this point. Hop was extended after he went to the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. So he went in 2019. And it's been awful since. I mean, they had two first-round picks, right? Did McDaniels go first round or second round? I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
He did. He went first.
Yeah, they had two 5-star top 10 recruits on the roster. And honestly, I think that was probably the issue that he ran into last season was that he brought in guys that didn't fit a culture as well as they fit
don't say guys. Isaiah Stewart's not a part of that, but Isaiah Stewart was the culture. Isaiah Stewart was the right player for the culture.
Yeah, that's not who I was referring to.
Yeah,
there's other guys that are no longer there right now.
Yeah.
But it felt like he brought in players that more fit the style that he wanted to play as opposed to the culture that you wanted to establish. I mean, if you go back and look at what Jim Boeheim has built, which is I'm assuming what Hop is trying to replicate at Washington, and they've had their fair share of knuckleheads, but they also have a lot of people that value and prioritize winning over anything else that they've ever run into. And that's headlined by Jim Boeheim, who might be one of the most competitive SOBs that you're ever going to run into. So I think that was part of the problem with Hop. It's also hard to try to start building something when you're doing it with just 5-star freshmen. It's one thing to bring in a 5-star to bolster what you already have. Look at what I'm doing. I'm doing something bigger on Michigan right now. And if you look at what Juwan Howard has done with Hunter Dickinson, you bring him in and have him supported by all of these other pieces, whether it's senior Isaiah Livers, senior Eli Brooks, grad transfer Mike Smith. He's not technically a grad transfer, but kind of grad transfer Shawnee Brown, Franz Wagner, who is one of the most improved players in the country. You put him in there and surround him with a bunch of guys that can help carry that team, and all of a sudden you have a star that you can anchor everything around. That's not necessarily what Hop did, so he loses these guys early after a really disappointing season, and the bottom kind of falls out of it. So
1 in 10, and they aren't just losing, Rob. They are getting smacked. Absolutely smacked in the Pac-12, so and everywhere. So yeah, it's year 4 for Hop. Like I said, I think Hop is so well liked. He likely gets another season. The big question becomes too, all right, if Hop doesn't get it done at Washington, do they hire him to replace? I mean, he was a coach in waiting at Syracuse. He was Syracuse, and he rolled the dice by leaving because he was kind of tired of waiting, and he didn't know how long Boeheim was going to last. And now, can you hire him if you're John Wildhack, the AD at Syracuse? Can you hire Hop back?
I don't know. It's not. You should not ever be 1 in 10 at Washington with the recruiting grounds that you have in Seattle. You should never be 1 in 10. So I honestly don't know if you can. I don't know if you can.
Listen, the only positive is at Syracuse. Devo's been talking. Eric Devendorf on his pod has been talking lately to a bunch of guys and about that question. Jason Hart said, "Yeah, you can bring him back. You can bring him back." And Devo said the same thing. But those guys want back, frankly, and they've said it. Even Derek Coleman, they want him back because They don't want to be left out in the cold. They love being a part of that program, and they're afraid if you bring an outsider in, that they're not going to have the same access. That's the word they use the most, is access. All they want is to be able to run in and do what they want, because it's Boeheim, right? And if Hopkins gets the job, they have probably even more access.
Yeah, DC told a story on Devo's pod, which dropped yesterday, that he used to go into, like, at the Big East tournament, there was a game when they were down by 15 to Georgetown at halftime. So he left his seat in the arena, walked back into underneath Madison Square Garden, and walked into the locker room. Just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You got to get it together. There was another one where he said he walked up to the bench during a timeout and he walked into the huddle and just started screaming at the team. And Boeheim was like, you heard what Derek said. Get back out there.
That's the best part. Most coaches be like, get the fuck out. Boeheim's like, yeah, whatever.